Hello everybody, welcome back once again to the Tactics Ogre Reborn walkthrough. I'm just going to sneak in another really quick one before I kind of move on with story stuff. And this one is going to be all about body snatching. It's an amazing aspect of the game. It can make some just absolutely broken characters. And so one of the things that I recommend actually doing first is, okay, we need the ogre, excuse me, we need the ogre blade. That's probably the most important thing if I can figure out how to get into my Warren report. Jeez. So, you want to make sure that you're beating Palace of the Dead, whoops, in Chapter 4. Wow, that's fun stuff. Alright, so what you really want to do is, again, make sure if you've already beaten the game once and you haven't beaten Palace of the Dead, okay, cool. But make sure that you're going back to this anchor point. This is right before the coda, right? So this is before the Hanging Garden stuff. And just anchor here and beat Palace of the Dead. Really, you need to go from the very bottom, from floor 1 all the way to 100. You need to beat Nibeth on, I think it's like floor 5 and floor 100, and then just beat the game. And so once you're into coda, and this is really important. Actually, I don't need to jump to that point. Let's go back. Let's back out here because he's already dead in mine. The kind of like the next step or the requirement is you really want to go into people in the Warren report and then find Necromancer Nibeth. So if this is your entry, then you're fine. So basically it describes how he used the Ring of the Dead to reincarnate himself, and then also it says the Resistance finally defeated him and he became one with the Dark, vanishing from the land. He is dead then in your game, basically, right? And again, you have to make sure that that is your entry when you're in Coda Episode 2. And that's the best time to do this. So we'll just make sure, actually I will jump to this anchor point just to really make it obvious that this is how you want things, set up. So again, we'll go back into people. We'll go down to Nibeth, who is right there. There you have it. He, has been defeated. And he vanished from the land. So he is for sure dead. Now, at this point, you can go into Palace of the Dead and go, basically, once you've beaten Nibeth once, you'll actually be able to craft the Palace guidebooks. You should, actually, do you get some for defeating Nibeth? I can't remember. Can't remember, actually, if you get any for beating him the first time, but let's go to the shop. And I'll just show you that now we can make it. So basically you get the secrets of the master. You know what, I'm actually going to check. I could have swore you actually get a couple of guidebooks for beating Nibeth the first time. Down on... Okay, you only get Palace Guidebook 3. So you really, but you do get Secrets of the Master, which is the way to craft these things. Let's show you those. So this is down. Oh, here they are. Palace Guidebook 1, 2, and 3. So they all require a shift stone. You can actually get those from campaign battles. The one where you fight Vice and Aracel, I think, is a fantastic place to get those. I can't remember exactly which battle that was. I'll go into the Warren report and find that really quickly. But Palace Guidebook 1, it takes glass pumpkins. Obviously, you get tons of those from Palace of the Dead. Worm horns you can get from Wildwood, from the dragons. That's probably the easiest way to get those. Same here with Palace Guidebook 2. Shift stones again from that Aracel and Vice battle. There's more than just that battle to get those, but I found that was one of the easier places to get shift stones. And you can get 6 every time you do that battle, which is a crazy good way to get them. Again, glass pumpkins from Palace of the Dead. Enchanted feather from Farumpa Wildwoods. Easy, you can get that right on the very first battle with the, or I should say from the Griffins. Wow, jeez, lost my train of thought there. And then Palace Guidebook 3, you get shift stones from, again, the ballad with Aracel and Vice. Glass pumpkins from, again, Palace of the Dead. Ancient bone from a lot of the Cyclops in Palace of the Dead. There's also some Cyclops at the end of the game, towards the basically the bottom of whatchamacallit, Jesus, the Hanging Gardens. I don't think that's that great of a way to get them. It's better to get these from Palace of the Dead. From, again, there's a couple of Cyclops enemies. So these are a little bit harder to come by, let's be honest, right? But most of the time you can get 3 ancient bones at a time from those Cyclops. So, or they drop in 3s. So very, very farmable if you're, going back down there. So anyways, all right, so let's just say now you've got your Palace guidebooks. The thing that I would recommend doing, though, is going through Pirates Graveyard and down into, I think it's Ripples of Grief. Don't quote me on that, but it's one of the battles towards the bottom. You'll see liches pop up there. It actually doesn't really matter. There's actually a couple of different battles now that I think about it. There might actually be 3 battles where liches will show up in Pirates Graveyard. There's a ice lich, which is very strange. Normally, liches can't be ice, but here you can. Not that important, but it's kind of cool. But anyways, what you want to do is you want to get a level 50 lich. The reason for that is when you body swap using the Ogre Blade, you keep your intelligence and mind stat. You don't get to keep your other stats, but you get to keep those too. The reason why that's so good is because then you can body swap into a lower level character and get even more growth with your intelligence and mind stat. It's crazy how this works. But you want to start out with a lich because they've got basically the best intelligence and mind growth of all of the different characters. So again, start with a lich, recruit that. It doesn't matter what clan your lich is. It also doesn't actually matter what your innate element is, and it's not worth switching because when you body swap, the new body will determine your clan and your element. So again, keep in mind, you can even use like if there's a Gelgastani lich down there, which I know there's some female Gelgastani liches, you can use those because you're just going to be getting rid of that clan anyway. The reason why that's bad, is, and I've put that in my guides a bunch of times, is that you don't really want to be using Gelgastani units because if you're trying to get Cressida in the Chaos route, your Gelgastani Chaos frame needs to be high, and if you've been slaughtering Gelgastanis with other Gelgastanis, your Chaos frame with Gelgastani will be lower. So again, keep in mind that actually, at least for this first step, it does not matter what clan they are, and it will work regardless. So the next step, okay, so let's just say you've already been down to level 100, and you fought Blackmore. You can take a look at my Blackmore video that I did. Not a difficult fight, depending, right, on if you've got enough kind of firepower. If your characters are strong enough, then that won't be too bad. Otherwise, you can use an undead strategy to do that as well. But at that point, again, assuming you've defeated Blackmore and got the Ogre Blade from either the Lich King or the Lich Queen, which are the 2 monsters that drop, or the 2 units that will drop that Ogre Blade for you 50% of the time. Fairly easy to get, right? Not extremely rare like some of the other drops from that battle. But at that point now we can anchor back. We'll jump to this first anchor point in the game, and we'll do our body snatch here. So the first thing that I want to do here is make sure that my unit is set up right, and it is not set up right. So what we'll do here is we'll do change class. We're going to change to a Dragoon the first time, because the Dragoon actually has the best RT, so it's going to get its turn more quickly than some of these other potential classes. You can use Warrior, you can use Terror Knight, or you can use Dragoon for this, because all or those 3 classes can use the 2-handed sword, which is what the Ogre Blade is. It's a 2-handed sword. And I'm just going to remove the rest of my gear. I really just want to make sure that this character is really fast. And then I'm also going to equip a Ring of the Dead. The Ring of the Dead isn't 100% necessary, but I think it makes sense, and I think it's a really good idea to do that. None of the rest of this stuff really matters. I don't even know why I'm equipping the 2-handed sword skill. It doesn't really matter either. But this looks good. I've got the ring, I've got the blade on. Next up, I'm actually going to remove Kashua's equipment, or at least her weapons, I should say, and her spells as well, because I don't want her annihilating everything on this map, because unfortunately she's a guest. And there's definitely a case to be made for not even trying this on this map, and just doing basically all of this on a map where you don't have a bunch of guests running around, because let's be honest, guests really complicate things, and they can, you know, kill off the enemies that you're trying to body swap. So yeah, I guess just keep that in mind. Where is Vice? Vice is our other guest for this battle. We're gonna get rid of this stuff. That's fine, and the rest of this is fine. Okay, so let's head on in and we'll do the Tillamoth Hill battle. The reason why you want to do this is because this is the way to get the lowest level enemies basically in the game. You don't have to do this, and there's other ways to kind of go about this, but for this specific scenario, I want it to kind of look like this. Also, I need to make sure my AI is turned off, so let's just interrupt here and make sure that I get that turned off. Oops, not that. AI cancel. One of the other things that you can do is actually to just you know, equip daggers and use the dagger finishers to stop your guests, so that they don't like slaughter, you know, the enemy troops. Another thing that you can do is turn the level sync on, which, you know, is a little bit annoying, but it kind of makes sense sometimes. All right, so the reason why I have to do this, okay, or the reason we have to use the Ring of the Dead is that if we don't use the Ring of the Dead, we can't pass on Meditate 4 and, I mean, to some extent, the rest of the Lich skills, though I don't really care about the rest of the Lich skills, right? But again, if you want to have Meditate 4 on some of these other characters, you need to do it like this, because obviously the Dragoon doesn't have Meditate 4. And so in order to pass that on, you need to body snatch from a Lich. And the other problem is obviously the Lich itself can't equip the Ogre Blade, but if you start out as a Dragoon and have it equipped, then you can basically Lichify yourself, you know, in the middle of battle, which makes you eligible for Meditate 4. So basically right now the game is treating this character as having learned all of those abilities. Now here's where it gets a little bit gross, right? We need to body snatch somebody without my other units killing everything off. So hopefully we can make that happen, but that's why this battle is a little risky to try this with. It's just sometimes they annihilate these guys, right? And it's hard to actually body snatch something without all of these characters, you know, wrecking, or the guests wrecking. And especially if they go after the boss too fast, right? It's looking like I'll be able to pull this off, but I guess just keep in mind sometimes it can be a little bit frustrating. But all right, so here we have a Lich who you can see here it actually is has the two-handed sword ability blacked out, and that's because Liches can't normally, you know, equip two-handed swords. But we're going to use the body snatch ability. We'll just body snatch this guy. All right, so let's take a look at this guy too. So if you notice here, so he's a Galgastani, and he's fire element. This guy probably is too. Yep, they're both Galgastanis. Actually, probably all of these guys are. But that's fine. I'm not planning on like keeping these guys. And also, I guess I would say, you know, be careful if you want to avoid using Galgastanis. I guess just keep in mind that this level specifically has a bunch of Galgastani troops in it. And if you're trying not to use them, then this could be a problem for you. But let's just nuke this guy, and we'll just kind of continue on. So yeah, honestly, this isn't preferably, or like a preferable way to do this, right? Because again, I actually don't want to have a Galgastani unit, because that can mess with Chaos Frame, which again I've already been over. But I really wanted to do this just in terms of or to highlight the growth that you get out of this. Oh, and of course my guy leveled to 17 anyway because, you know, everybody's so high. I really actually don't think that that's that great of a battle. So the other way to do that is to bring a bunch of lower level characters in there so that they can absorb experience. And I really should have done that. I should have loaded this up with like level 1s so that they could grab some of that experience. And that would have been a better setup because now this guy is a level 17 warrior, right? So that didn't really do me that much good. I mean, and that's not true. I mean, this is still a lot of growth that I can potentially get out of this, but so if you notice there, also the kind of fun thing about using the Ring of the Dead in that way in body snatching is that it acts as though the ring hasn't been used. So if you're body snatching, right, and you start out as a warrior or a lancer or a Terror Knight, and you use the ring, then you do the body swap, you get to keep the ring, which is great, because then you don't have to farm up another one. And, alright, so here's the benefit, right? So now I've got a level 17 warrior. You can see, look at my intelligence and mind stats there. 278 intelligence, 247 mind. And I've got Meditate 4, I've got Nature's Resolve, Nature's Touch, Salvation. Again, you've got a lot of the Lich skills, and we get to keep those. So I'll just show you. So now, actually, let's equip these. Let's equip all these Lich skills. So let's do Reflection and Nature's Touch. Unfortunately, though, now my Ogre Blade is gone. So every time you body snatch, it uses up an Ogre Blade. Meaning that at this point now I would need to go to the Warren Report and world tear it back into my Coda episode. Oops. If I can find this here. Why is this being so goofy? There we are. So we'll go back into our anchor point in the Coda, episode 2. Excuse me. And I'll just show you here again. Again, we want to make sure, and this should, you know, as long as you did this correctly, you know, obviously, so Necromancer, Nibeth is dead still, so you can see that. So basically, every time that you whirled back into your Coda episode 2, Nibeth is dead, and you can just go right back into Palace of the Dead, make your way down to floor 100, use your guides, right, to make it down there faster, and you'll be able to fight Blackmore again and get a new Ogre Blade. Alright, so why do this process like this, though, right? Well, let's just change this guy. I'm actually going to change him just into a Warlock. For the intelligence and mind growth. Very, very, very similar growth to Liches, although it's slightly worse. Also, you notice, or if you've noticed, this is a fire elemental character now, and a Galgastani. So again, I would prefer to maybe not do it quite like this, but this still works. As long as you want to like body snatch into something that isn't a Galgastani. So anyways, though, we're now a level 17 Warlock. Let's use some charms here, some experience charms, and I'll just show you. You know, obviously, you don't need to use charms for this. You can actually just use, you can just do a training battle, right, and gain a bunch of levels that way. But you can see here now we're really catapulting that intelligence and mind stat. Unfortunately, though, you know, the rest of the stats, like the strength, vit, dex, you know, all the rest, you're still looking at basic, you know, growth, I guess I would say. So I guess just keep that in mind. But what we're really gaining here is a ton of intelligence, a ton of mind, and we're going to get to keep the whatever we basically body snatched from, right? So technically in that last battle, the game is treating it as though we body snatched from a Lich. So we get to keep all the Lich abilities, again, like Meditate 4 and all that. Now, at this point, now we've got we're up to 411 intelligence, 366 mind, and at least one of the things that we can do at this point is we could go back to Dragoon again and we could body snatch something else. One of the things that I really like to do is to body snatch like matriarchs. I'm a big fan of that class because they can use, you know, the summon spells. They've got great, you know, caster stats just in general, and their you know, their equipment is really good as well, or their equipment options are really good. So kind of one of the things that I would maybe suggest doing next is, again, we'll just say that you've got a new Ogre Blade. One of the things that you can do, and especially if you want to get a like a Lamia matriarch, or maybe even like a patriarch of some sort, what you can do here is go into, I think it's chapter 3. I think it's chapter 3. Let's see if I can find it. Yeah, it's chapter 3, and you can do the, I think it's Lake Bordu. I can't remember if it's Lake Bordu though, or if it's Sanji Weald. I think it's Bordu. And this will have kind of like the earliest matriarch. I think it's Bordu. God, I'm a little rusty now. But I think it's Bordu. So anyways, basically you go to this anchor point, beat the Koritanai 2 battles, right? And then you've got the choice between doing Lake Bordu or Sanji Weald, and just go into Lake Bordu. And then you can snatch you can body snatch a matriarch there. That's what I've done for a couple of my characters, and let's just see here if I can find her. Not quite that. So it's this one. It's Uriel. Okay, so I've got Meditate 4, which matriarchs already have. Ivory Tower 2 as well. They have already got that. But Nature's Touch is not a skill that you can get on a matriarch. The only way to do this is by body snatching. So again, I basically took that same route there, where I had a Dragoon that I snatched into I changed into a Lich, and then body snatched something else. And then I picked up a new Ogre Blade and took that same character and body snatched a matriarch. And so you've got this character that, let's be honest, actually has not that great of intelligence and mind growth, but that's because I did things a little goofy. She should actually have a lot more than what she does right now, but also has Nature's Touch, which again is a very, very good spell, or ability, I'm sorry, to have on, you know, a matriarch. So there's just all kinds of crazy things that you can do with these guys. Otherwise, so you can snatch like you can start as a Dragoon and snatch into something else, and that'll actually let you keep, you know, Dragon Slayer, Beast Slayer, a lot of these different abilities. I'm not going to go through all of the different abilities, although, nah, I really shouldn't I? Alright, let's take a look here. Basically, you can snatch, like for support abilities, you can use Constitution 2, that comes from the Warrior, Terror Knight, Dragoon, Juggernaut, and Divine Knight, which is kind of cool actually you can snatch, or if you start out as a Juggernaut and then snatch into something else, you get to keep all the Juggernaut skills. I'll just change over to one of these really quickly. Actually, I didn't need to do this, did I? I've done this actually on one of my matriarchs. Let's take a look at her. Was it her? Yes. So this is one of my matriarchs that I snatched. So I started out as a Juggernaut of some sort, right? Maybe possibly even a Lamia. It doesn't really matter, right? As long as you've got the Juggernaut. And then I snatched, I guess, something else. I'm not sure. It looks like at some point I was a Terror Knight. So I probably started out as a Terror Knight, snatched a Juggernaut to get, you know, Intimidate, to get Threaten, Check, and then I snatched again into a Matriarch. And so now I'm a Matriarch that has Shadow Knight abilities and Juggernaut abilities. You know, some of this stuff gets a little bit redundant and I don't think it really makes that much sense. Like a Lancer that has, you know, a bunch of different Lancer abilities, and then like Terror Knight abilities and Warrior abilities, right? Like there isn't that much point to doing that because you can still only equip so many skills anyway. So you know that you're still limited by your 4, and yeah, so this is a Matriarch that has Meditate 4, which again you're getting from Matriarch anyway, so that's not like I didn't need to, you know, snatch from a Lich. But this is a Juggernaut ability, and then I've got Lament of the Dead, which obviously is a Terror Knight ability as well. So this is like a frontliner matriarch. She doesn't have that great of stats. You can see there, strength 188, 199. You know, I don't know what bodies she's snatched into. With an MP stat though of 386, she probably is snatched into a level 50 matriarch. That doesn't make sense. It would have been better to snatch into like a Juggernaut, because I'd still get the amazing intelligence and mind stat, right, from snatching so many times, but I'd also have the base stats, or the other base stats of a stronger unit, again, like a Juggernaut or something like that. So that was one of the units that I kind of just learned on, right, at just trying different things. But the bad thing, though, also about snatching into like a Juggernaut or something like that is then your MP isn't very good. And unfortunately, MP is just not a stat that you can really fix with charms. So at the end of the day, it may not be bad to just snatch into either a matriarch or a Lamia Witch if you want to end up as a matriarch, right? Because you'll get all of that, you'll get the growth still from the witch class and get the MP growth. Again, you won't have as good as stats with like strength and stuff, but you can always fix those stats later, whereas there's just nothing that you can do about MP, right? You're, aside from getting those green cards that increase your MP, which are very rare and is not a good way to do it, right? So anyways, that's pretty much it. Again, I'm not going to go over all of the different stuff that you can do with this, but one of the other kind of cool things, though, is that you can snatch Divine Knight skills as well. You know, that it's a little complicated, right? You probably want to start out as, you know, let's just say a witch, a ghost, and then you can change into a Divine Knight. Or maybe that's probably not the best way to do it, right? It's probably better to do like, excuse me. It's probably better to actually body snatch a Divine Knight, and then what you can do is class change into, you know, something else that can use another Ogre Blade. Actually, I'm sorry. You wanna end up as a Divine Knight, right? So you want to snatch basically, or yeah, start out as a ghost that probably like has Meditate 4, and then you want to body snatch, or I'm sorry, change class. Actually, yeah, it's not going to work as a ghost. I'm sorry, I don't know what I was thinking. You want to start out as like some sort of skeleton, or yeah, I guess even a human. Yeah, I don't know, a human wouldn't work as good. A skeleton would probably work the best. So you start as like a skeleton Terror Knight or a skeleton warrior, and then use an Ensanguined Darude in battle, then body snatch something, right? To get you, you know, whatever you want to end up as. But that'll get you, by starting out as the skeleton and body snatching, and using an Ensanguined Darude, that'll allow you to carry over the Divine Knight's skills into whatever you want to body snatch. So, also, I guess maybe one of the fun things that I did here was I've got a songstress now with, or actually two songstress that have Meditate 4. The way that I did this, and I actually really like this because normally a songstress can't get Meditate 4, right? They can only get to Meditate 2. So what I did was I started out as, I think it was a human unit, and I used the Ring of the Dead to change that character into a Lich, and then I body snatched a pumpkin on level 4 of Palace of the Dead. So basically, by using the Ring of the Dead first, it gave me the Lich skills, and then body snatching into basically it was a pumpkin familiar. Right, I was able to grab or then change my pumpkin familiar into songstress. I really like this class. This is one of the more fun things that I did that I thought was really fun, and it worked out really well. So now I have two songstress that both can get the Meditate 4, which, you know, was able to power Poised Arabesque, right, which is a very expensive MP cost spell. but it dishes out a bunch of HP and MP. The heal, the HP isn't that great, but it's like around 30 MP. So you can really crank out MP to the rest of your characters, and I like that better than like using the Lich's Salvation skill, right? Because it basically robs MP first and then it redistributes, which I don't really like that. So, as I said, a lot of fun things that you can do with this. You just have to keep in mind that some of these classes are what I would call a dead end. So once you body swap into them, like the Songstress and Familiars, there's no where to go from here, because none of these pumpkins can't be any class that can use the two-handed sword. The one difference, right, is the gremlins, because the gremlins can actually be warriors, although it just doesn't do you any good, because there's no real difference between there's probably some stat differences between a gremlin warrior and a human warrior, but if you're body snatching out of that class, does it really matter that you were like, oh, hey, cool, this is a warrior, right? But who cares, because you don't get to keep that body anyway. So just trying to think of what some other cool stuff with these guys are. I mean, body snatching is just incredible. It's just at the end of the game here, so this is my body snatched patriarch. You can see the stats are just crazy here. 389 intelligence, 374 mind. Basically, this guy I used to paralyze heavenly generals. It doesn't miss. It's 100% because his stats are so freaking high. And he's a little bit tanky, right, with Ivory Tower. I've also got check, so if enemies are near him, he can sometimes just stop them, which is kind of nuts as well. So yeah, again, like I said, there's a lot of fun things that you can do with body snatching. I think there's a point where obviously you get pretty broken pretty quickly, right? Like this dude being able to just paralyze the heavenly generals is nuts. But also there's some things where it's like, does it really matter if I make this Terror Knight that has all of the warrior abilities, all of the Lancer abilities, and then he's like ended up as a patriarch, right? It doesn't really make that much sense, because at the end of the day, you're stuck with only 4 skills anyway, so, at some point it's kind of like, why bother? But anyways, that is it. That is it for the body snatching. Again, it's one of the greatest, most fun things that you can do in the game, although, grinding out more and more Ogre Blades can be a little bit annoying, but you can really end up with some fun combinations, and really getting MP or Meditate 4 onto your units is incredible. And I think that if you're using, generics, that's just generally always a good idea anyway. A Lancer with Meditate 4 makes sure that you can use, Dragon Slayer turn after turn, or a Warrior with Meditate 4, you're able to dish out finisher after finisher. And I think that's probably the best thing that comes from body snatching. So anyways, that is going to be it for this one. As always, I hope the guide was helpful, and thank you for watching.